The tragic receipt was a day that would go down in history as the beginning of Earth's darkest hour. The sun shone brightly, and the world seemed as if it were moving toward a peaceful future, unaware of the destruction that was about to unfold. A child, no older than 8, stood in the middle of a bustling city park, playing with a ball. Her laughter echoed through the air as she ran, full of life, unaware of the events that would soon change everything. The peaceful moment was shattered in an instant. An alien ship, silent and swift, descended from the sky. Its sleek, metallic surface gleamed in the sun, and before anyone could react, it released a powerful blast. The explosion engulfed the park, sending shockwaves through the city. The child's family, along with dozens of others, were caught in the blast. Screams filled the air, and the once lively park turned into a scene of chaos. Dust and debris hung thick in the air as survivors tried to crawl to safety. Among them, the child's parents desperately searched for their daughter, but it was too late. The child was gone, lost in the blink of an eye, and with her, the hope that had once burned so brightly in their hearts. The city, once vibrant, was now mourning the loss of an innocent life taken by an unknown enemy. The news spread quickly, and soon every corner of Earth knew of the tragedy. The entire planet came to a standstill as people looked toward the sky, waiting for answers. Why had this happened? Why had a child, so full of potential, been targeted by such an attack? There was no answer, only the haunting image of her lifeless body lying in the rubble. Earth's leaders, stunned by the tragedy, gathered in secret meetings to discuss the next steps. The alien forces that had caused the destruction were unknown, and the attack seemed random. But no one could ignore the fact that the child's death had sparked something deep within humanity. It wasn't just a loss. It was a declaration of war. The innocent had been taken, and Earth's people would not stand idly by. Grief turned to anger. The governments of Earth began to communicate, their words sharp and cold, as they united in their resolve to find out who had done this. But one thing was clear: no one could undo the pain. The child's death would remain a scar, a constant reminder that Earth had been violated. As the days passed, Earth's citizens stood together in a way they never had before. From the streets of New York to the villages of Africa, people mourned, together, holding vigils for the lost child. But amid the sadness, a sense of unity began to form. No longer would Earth be the passive planet it had once been. The message was clear: humanity would no longer stand by in silence. A few days later, Earth's leaders addressed the world. The speech was broadcast to every corner of the planet as the president stood before the gathered masses. "We will not let this act of violence go unanswered," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "The death of this child will not be in vain. We will strike back, and we will make sure the galaxy knows that Earth will not be a target again." Across the globe, the response was overwhelming. Earth's people, still reeling from the shock, now found a new sense of purpose. The child's tragic death had become a rallying cry, a symbol of all the pain and suffering that had been inflicted upon humanity. Every single person now felt the weight of the loss, and every person understood that this was not just about one child, it was about Earth's future. The city park, where the tragedy had struck, was turned into a memorial. People from all walks of life came to pay their respects, leaving flowers and messages of hope. It was as if the entire world had decided that they would not let this tragedy define them. Instead, they would use it as the spark for something greater. But the message was loud and clear. Earth had been hurt, and now Earth would strike back. The child's death marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. It was not a time of weakness, but a time of strength. The galaxy had just awakened, a force that no one could predict. What Earth had lost in innocence, it had gained in resolve. And with that resolve, Earth's vengeance would be swift, and it would be unrelenting. Asterisk, the call to arms, the death of the child, resonated far beyond the walls of Earth's cities. It ignited something within humanity, a collective fire of anger and determination. Governments, once divided by politics and petty disputes, now stood united under a single banner: vengeance. The attack had shattered any illusion of peace with the cosmos. Earth was no longer a passive bystander, a weak planet in a vast galaxy. The time for hesitation had ended. The time for action had come. In the high-tech war rooms of Earth's most powerful nations, military leaders and strategists worked tirelessly to formulate a plan. The attack on the child was an unprovoked act of war, and Earth was ready to respond. But this would not be just any response, it would be a strike that would send shockwaves across the galaxy. The leaders of Earth, having united in a way that no one had thought possible, began to reassemble Earth's long-neglected space fleet. The planet's warships, dormant for years, were rapidly brought out of storage, and the most advanced military technologies were pushed to their limits. Humanity's greatest engineers and scientists, once focused on exploration, now turned their attention to one singular goal: war. The call went out to every corner of Earth. All able-bodied men and women were urged to join the fight. From the farmers of the plains to the businessmen of the cities, humanity answered the call. It was no longer about borders or national identities. It was about one thing: survival. The galaxy had tried to crush Earth's spirit, but Earth would now show that spirit in its most dangerous form, on Earth's largest military base. The first wave of warships was being prepared for launch. Each ship was a symbol of humanity's defiance, designed with cutting-edge technology and equipped with the most advanced weapons the world had ever seen. These ships were built to deliver a single message: you hurt us once, but we are not so easily broken. As the warships were armed and ready, the human fleet's first commander stood before his crew. A man of few words, his face hardened with the weight of the mission. His voice, however, was clear, each word filled with purpose. We are not here to negotiate. We are not here to beg for peace. We are here because Earth has been wronged, and it is time for us to make them pay. The room fell silent. The tension was palpable. For years, Earth had been an observer, watching as other species fought for dominance. But now, the human race was about to take its first step toward becoming the most feared force in the galaxy. News of Earth's retaliation spread rapidly. The galaxy, which had always underestimated humanity, now watched in awe as Earth prepared to strike back. Diplomats and alien leaders scrambled to understand what had changed. Earth, once seen as a vulnerable world, was suddenly a powerful, unified force. But the alien forces that had initiated the attack were not unaware of the coming storm. In the far reaches of the galaxy, on the homeworlds of those responsible for the tragedy, a council of alien leaders gathered to discuss the impending threat. The child's death, while just one of many incidents, had stirred something deep within the hearts of Earth's people. The message was clear. Earth was no longer content to be pushed around. The aliens, confident in their superiority, dismissed the threat. Let them send their ships, one leader scoffed. They are nothing but insects in the grand scheme of the universe. But deep down, the alien leaders knew that Earth's anger was not something to be taken lightly. They had miscalculated. They had underestimated the power of a united human will as Earth's forces prepared to launch their first assault. A chilling realization began to set in across the galaxy. The conflict had escalated beyond a simple battle. It had become a war for survival, for the soul of humanity. And Earth was willing to do whatever it took to defend its future. Back on Earth, the moment of departure had finally arrived. The fleet was assembled, and Earth's soldiers stood ready. The ships, now fully armed and prepared for war, began their journey toward the stars. The tension was unbearable as families watched their loved ones depart for a war that no one had wanted, but now no one could avoid. As the fleet ascended into the skies, the whole world watched in silent anticipation. The children, the mothers, the fathers, everyone felt the weight of what was to come. This was no longer about one child. This was about all of humanity. The first steps of Earth's vengeance had been taken, and with those steps, the galaxy would never be the same. The message had been sent, and the countdown to war had begun. Earth would no longer be a silent player in the galaxy. Now, it was the galaxy's most dangerous adversary, and no one would be able to ignore it any longer. The galactic responses, Earth's forces set their course into the deep void of space. The alien powers, confident in their military superiority, were too slow to realize the depth of humanity's resolve. Earth was not the helpless planet they once thought it to be. The attack on the child had been the breaking point, and now Earth had become an unstoppable force and entity that would no longer cower in the shadows of the stars in the alien capital. Leaders gathered in a massive council room. This was not an ordinary meeting. This was a crisis summit. The child's death had been a mere blip in their history, a casualty in their ongoing wars across the galaxy. Yet, it had sparked a response from Earth that no one had anticipated. Alien diplomats were now trying to assess the scale of Earth's retaliation. Their reports came back clear. Earth had mobilized its full military strength, and it wasn't just a strike, it was a declaration of war. The alien forces had never faced anything like Earth's determination. They had underestimated the willpower of a species that had endured years of oppression and alien indifference. Now, their arrogance was coming back to haunt them. As they observed the military might of Earth building in real time, they began to realize that this was not a war they could win easily. We cannot underestimate them, one alien leader said, his voice filled with both anger and fear. They are prepared. We must make them understand that they are nothing more than ants in the galaxy's vastness. But there was something in the alien leader's eyes. Now, Earth had ignited a fire in its people, a fire that would burn hotter with every passing day. They weren't just fighting for vengeance anymore. They were fighting for the future of their species. The Galactic Council knew they had to act fast. The time for diplomacy had passed. It was clear Earth had risen from the ashes of tragedy, and now it was time to break the silence. A counterattack was inevitable. But what the aliens failed to understand was that their enemies weren't just human beings, they were families, lovers, and warriors united by the love of their lost child. Earth's heart had been torn apart, but now it was ready to bleed for a cause greater than itself. As the alien leaders began to prepare their defenses, they sent messages across the galaxy, warning every allied species about the impending Earth. Their ships would not be able to hide forever, and their allies would need to prepare for the worst. The universe, once comfortable with its indifference, was now being forced to acknowledge the power of a species that had been pushed too far. Back on Earth, the anticipation reached a fever pitch. People from all walks of life tuned in to watch the first sign of battle. It wasn't just the military that was ready. The entire planet was united. This was not just a conflict between nations or alien species. Was the entire world standing up to a threat that had taken one of their own? The child's death had united humanity in a way nothing else could have. In the United Nations headquarters, world leaders stood side by side. Their faces, once filled with doubt, now burned with purpose. The time for speeches was over. Earth's fleet had been sent out with a single purpose in mind: to show the galaxy that humanity could not be broken. The ships were not just filled with soldiers. They were filled with the souls of every person who had ever been affected by the loss of a loved one. Their collective grief had become the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. The fleet was now entering enemy territory, each ship cutting through space with deadly precision. The first alien contact came sooner than expected. As Earth's ships approached the enemy's outer perimeter, alien warships appeared out of the void, their hulls gleaming with deadly intent. These ships, though massive and powerful, did not intimidate humanity. The fleet, now fully operational, was battle-hardened and prepared for what would be the greatest conflict in human history. On board the lead ship, Captain Marcus Drayton stood before his crew. His eyes were set on the stars ahead, where the enemy fleet was waiting. His voice was steady, but there was an unmistakable fire in it. "Today," he said, "we avenge the innocent. This isn't just about winning a war. This is about giving our children the future they deserve. We fight for them, for their right to grow up in a world free from fear. And we fight because we must." The crew responded with a unanimous roar of agreement. The fleet was ready, their weapons primed, their engines roaring to life. The moment had come. The child's death was no longer just a tragedy, was the rallying cry for Earth's rise. And now the galaxy would learn that the heart of humanity was stronger than any weapon they had ever known. As the first wave of Earth's warships entered the battle zone, they were met with an overwhelming force of alien technology. Laser blasts, missiles, and plasma energy filled the vast emptiness of space. But Earth's ships fought with a precision and fury that was unmatched. Each shot fired was a testament to the pain that humanity had endured. Each explosion was a declaration of their power. The battle raged on, with both sides suffering heavy losses, but Earth's resolve proved unbreakable. For every fallen soldier, humanity grew stronger. The alien forces, despite their technological superiority, could not match the power of a united Earth. The tide of battle was slowly turning in humanity's favor. The galaxy, once indifferent to the fate of this small blue planet, was now witnessing Earth's greatest strength, its unity. Humanity's first strike. The war between Earth and the alien forces had reached a critical point. The galaxy had underestimated humanity's spirit, but now they were about to feel its full force. Earth's fleet, having taken a heavy toll from the initial skirmishes, was ready to deliver a blow that would echo through the stars. With Earth's greatest minds and warriors at the helm, every ship was prepared for the next step in this unprecedented war. The final strike was imminent. Humanity's warships, now fully battle-ready, had been modified with cutting-edge technology that no alien force had expected. The intelligence they had gathered from previous battles had given them the upper hand. Now, Earth's fleet was about to launch a full-scale assault that would leave the alien forces reeling as Earth's ships closed in on the alien homeworld. Captain Marcus Drayton stood on the command deck of the lead ship, staring at the vast expanse of space before him. His hand gripped the controls firmly, his mind focused on the task at hand. The child's death weighed heavily on his heart, and every passing second only fueled his determination. "This is for all the innocents we've lost," he muttered under his breath. Beside him, his crew stood in silence, knowing that this mission was as much personal as it was military. The child's death had united them in a way no enemy could. It was no longer about national pride or politics. It was about a world that had united for the greater good of all. The fleet, powered by humanity's unyielding drive for vengeance, was unstoppable. At the same time, far across the galaxy, the alien commanders were preparing for what they thought would be another easy victory. The first skirmishes had been hard, but they had made significant gains. Their forces were immense, and their technology was superior in many ways. But they had miscalculated one thing: humanity's resolve. The alien leaders gathered in their war rooms, debating their next move. They had been on the offensive, but now, with Earth's fleet growing closer to their homeworld, the atmosphere had changed. The once cocky leaders began to feel the weight of their choices. They had underestimated the humans, assuming that their technological superiority would guarantee victory. But what they didn't account for was the deep well of emotion driving Earth's forces. The pain of a child's death was not something any weapon could destroy. The alien forces had pushed humanity too far, and now they would face the consequences. The first volley of missiles fired from Earth's warships pierced the void, rocketing toward the alien fleet with a deadly precision. The alien defenses scrambled to respond, but they were too late. The shockwave from the initial impact rattled the very core of the alien ships. Earth's first strike was more than just a physical attack. It was a declaration of everything humanity had been holding back for years. It was the fury of a planet united in grief and vengeance, and it would not stop until the enemy was wiped from the stars. Back on Earth, the war had become the heartbeat of the world. Every broadcast, every news outlet, every citizen was glued to the screen, watching as humanity fought back against the alien menace. The streets were empty, the air thick with tension. It was as though the entire world held its breath, waiting for the outcome of this battle. Families, whose hearts had been shattered by the loss of the child, now stood together as one. No longer would they mourn the death of one. They would fight for all who had been lost. Every individual, whether a soldier or a civilian, understood that the child's death was just the beginning. They were all now soldiers in a battle that could determine the fate of their entire species. The alien fleet, despite its technological advantages, was faltering under the relentless assault. Earth's ships had become an unyielding force, their weapons tearing through the alien defenses with brutal efficiency. The aliens, once so confident, began to realize that their arrogance had cost them dearly. They were losing, and they didn't know how to stop it. The final phase of the assault had begun. As Earth's warships closed in on the alien capital, they launched a barrage of missiles that obliterated the alien fleet's outer defenses. The alien homeworld, once considered an impenetrable fortress, now stood vulnerable, exposed to the might of humanity's fury. But the aliens had one last card to play. A massive flagship, equipped with a super weapon capable of destroying entire fleets, emerged from the shadows. The weapon was humanity's greatest fear, the last resort of a race determined to fight until the bitter end. Yet Earth's forces were ready. The last line of defense had been built with years of preparation, and Earth had no intention of allowing this weapon to bring an end to the war. In a final, desperate move, Earth's ships launched a coordinated attack on the alien flagship. The battle that followed was one for the history books, a fight that would go down as the turning point in the war. The tide of battle had shifted. With the alien flagship destroyed, the remaining forces scattered in disarray. Earth's final strike had been successful, and the galaxy would never forget the message it sent. Humanity was no longer a passive species, it was a force to be reckoned with. As Earth's ships made their way back to the planet, the celebration was quiet. The world had won, but the victory came at a great cost. The child's death had been avenged, but at the cost of lives that could never be replaced. Earth had made its stand, and now it was a force that could no longer be ignored. The galaxy would tremble at the thought of crossing Earth again. Asterisk, the final showdown and Earth's victory. The war had reached its apex, and the galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. Humanity, once considered insignificant in the grand scheme of the cosmos, had turned its grief into power and forged an unbreakable will to survive. Now, as the final showdown loomed between Earth's forces and the alien invaders, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Earth's fleet, having decimated the enemy's outer defenses, now moved toward the heart of the alien empire, their homeworld. It was an alien planet like no other. Vast cities sprawled across its surface, towering structures filled with advanced technology, and landscapes that seemed unyielding in their alien beauty. But beneath its surface, a dark secret was buried, a secret that Earth's forces were about to uncover. As the lead ships of Earth's fleet approached the alien capital, Captain Marcus Drayton stood once again at the helm. His eyes, though weary, were filled with the fire of resolve. The battle had been long and grueling, but the child's death had given humanity a reason to fight that was stronger than any weapon. Every member of the fleet had fought not just for the survival of their species, but to honor the memory of the child, whose tragic loss had sparked this war. This final battle would not be about politics or resources. It was about something far more personal. It was a fight for the soul of humanity, as Earth's warships closed in on the alien capital. The last remaining forces of the alien empire launched their counteroffensive. Massive warships, far larger and more powerful than any Earth had encountered before, emerged from the shadows of the planet. They were armed with weapons of mass destruction, enough to wipe out an entire fleet in one fell swoop. But even in the face of such overwhelming power, Earth's fleet did not falter. They had come too far to back down now. The battle began, with a deafening roar as the alien forces fired their first salvo. Their weapons were designed to annihilate, and they knew that humanity's fleet was not prepared for such a powerful assault. But Earth's forces were different now. They had adapted, learned from their mistakes, and refined their strategies. Their warships were agile and precise, avoiding the initial barrage with deadly skill. Each shot fired from Earth's ships was calculated, deliberate, and fueled by an unyielding thirst for justice. Captain Drayton, his voice steady over the comms, issued the orders with the calm of a seasoned leader. No more mercy. Strike hard, strike fast. For Earth, for the child. The fleet responded in unison. The first wave of Earth's missiles struck the alien defenses, causing massive explosions that lit up the dark expanse of space. But the alien ships were not going to fall easily. They fought back with all their might, unleashing waves of energy blasts that lit up the sky like fireworks. The battle raged on, each side giving everything they had, But Earth's forces had the advantage. The unity of humanity, the strength of its purpose, and the memory of the child who had sparked this conflict were driving them forward, as Earth's warships pushed deeper into the heart of the alien fleet. The enemy began to realize they had underestimated their opponents. The child's death, once seen as a tragedy, had transformed into a symbol of Earth's unbreakable resolve. Humanity was no longer a target to be crushed. They were the storm that would break the heavens. In a final, desperate move, the alien forces activated their superweapon, an enormous device capable of unleashing a cataclysmic wave of destruction. It was their last hope, their ultimate weapon. But Earth's forces, having anticipated this move, were ready. In a coordinated strike, they deployed a fleet of small, agile drones designed specifically to infiltrate the alien superweapon's defenses. The drones dodged the alien fire and successfully breached the weapon's core, planting explosive charges that triggered a massive chain reaction. The explosion was cataclysmic. The alien superweapon, the very heart of their final defense, was obliterated in a flash of light. The shockwave rippled through space, sending shock and awe through both the alien and human fleets. The galaxy itself seemed to shudder in response as the alien forces scrambled to regroup. Earth's fleet launched a final offensive. The last remnants of the enemy fleet were systematically destroyed, their once proud warships now floating in space as lifeless husks. The battle for Earth's survival had come to an end. The child's death had been avenged, and the galaxy would remember this day for centuries to come. In the aftermath of the battle, as Earth's fleet began its journey home, a quiet celebration took place. The world, though scarred by the conflict, had emerged victorious. Humanity had stood up to its oppressors, had fought for its survival, and had shown the galaxy that it was no longer to be underestimated. The leaders of Earth gathered for a final address, and their words were simple but powerful. This victory belongs to every soul who stood with us, to every life lost and every life saved, to the child who sparked this war and to the future we will now build. We will never forget what we have been through, and we will never again be vulnerable. As the leader's voice echoed across the world, humanity stood united. They had proved that even in the face of overwhelming odds, Earth would never back down. The galaxy had underestimated them, and now it would know better. Earth's vengeance had been unleashed. The child's death had been avenged, and the galaxy, for the first time, was left in awe of the power of a united humanity.